Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Future World Conversations. I'm so glad you are all here today with us. At Future World Alliance, we spend a lot of time talking about what AI can do, but today's conversation is about something deeper and honestly most important. Machines are moving fast, but the real question is, how are humans moving with them, right? AI is already shaping how we pay attention, how we relate to one another, how we regulate emotions, and how we make decisions, often without us even noticing. So that the challenge in front of us isn't just learning new tools or keeping up with the innovation, but it's learning how to pause, how to discern, and how to lead with intention in an always on world. That's exactly why I'm so excited for this today's conversation. Machines move fast, humanity matters more. To have this conversation, we are incredibly fortunate to be joined by Holly Kelly, who currently serves as Director of Innovation and School Improvement for ROE 39 and Area 4 SEL Coordinator in Illinois. Holly brings a grounded, hopeful perspective to AI, perspective to how AI intersects with learning, well-being, and human agency. And I'm really looking forward to the reflection she is going to share with us today. We'll have 10 to 15 minutes for conversation and questions at the last. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. With that, Holly, over to you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Padma. I also want to welcome everyone in the audience, and also I want to welcome Posen Robin School District. If you all want to say hey. I'm actually at a school district right now about 30 miles from Chicago, and we paused mid-session so we could jump on this call, and we're talking about this very topic. So it is quite timely, and we are in an audience as well with all educators from 3rd to 5th graders understanding what we teach about AI. So this topic is very relevant to the room. I'd like, before we begin, I want to invite you just to do one small thing with me. I just want you to take awareness and notice where your shoulders are, and if they're hovering up near your ears, no judgment, but release them. Roll them out, let them drop. Take the tongue off the roof of your mouth and just de-stress for 1 second and just take a slow breath. Thank you. I start this way because conversations we're about ready to have about artificial intelligence and humanity does not actually begin with technology. It begins with our nervous system. I started to talk about why this matters, this moment matters for all of us and all humanity, is because we are standing at a very particular moment in history. We are the first generation of humans, educators, leaders, and caregivers that are raising children who can offload thinking before they ever build it. And if you just take a moment to let that sink in, we're raising a generation of students that can offload cognition or thinking before they ever have a chance to build it. That moment makes this different. It's not dangerous, but it is defining. Artificial intelligence is definitely not coming. Humans are using it and being used by it throughout the majority of every day and have little or no awareness or knowledge of it. It is already here. It's in all of our lives. It's nothing to be scared of. The world is still moving. And it is shaping, though, how we think, feel, and decide and relate, often without the majority of us really ever realizing it. And what this is, and what is not being talked about enough, is that AI is the stress test for humanity. So what I mean by this is that AI is not something to fear or something to idolize. It's something that stress tests our humanity. And here's the line I come back to again and again. AI does not replace human skills, it stress tests them. So what that means is it stress tests discernment, whether or not we believe that what we're seeing is truthful or not, whether or not something we see is real or not. It stress tests patience, it stress tests empathy, and it stress tests our ability to pause. When systems are under stress, what matters most is not speed, it's pause, not stopping, but pausing. This is what we call stability, and humanity and society need stability, and our students deserve that stability. So that brings us to this, is the invisible shift. What AI is already shaping in us as humans and in our growing brain students. AI is shaping attention. What we notice and what we miss. It's shaping identity, how we compare ourselves to others and outputs. It's shaping emotional regulation, how quickly we react, scroll, respond, and move on. And it's shaping agency, who we believe is doing the thinking. Most of all, the influence, as you know, Padma, it's invisible. We don't see it. And when something powerful is invisible, it doesn't make us careless, it makes us vulnerable. It doesn't make us weak, it just makes us vulnerable. The danger is not AI itself, it's confusion. So I want to name something clearly while we're on this call together. AI is not the villain or the enemy, confusion is. Speed without reflection, convenience without meaning, urgency without intention. When confusion runs the room, agency slips quietly out the door. So this is my funny, quirky friends. This is where SEL comes in. And SEL is the center of what makes us human and what actually differentiates us from machines. And in a machine-driven world, which we hear so often, but we don't pause to think, what does that mean? It means that humans aren't driving the world, machines are, and humans are a part of that. Humans are still the most special species and are. So with that, I want to not make assumptions. So what is social emotional learning and why are we talking about SEL and AI together? It's the human skills behind all learning. Before we go any further, I want to make sure we're grounded in what we mean when we say SEL or social emotional learning, because not everyone comes into this conversation with the same definition. Social emotional learning is not a program. It's not a lesson you check off, and it's definitely not about being nice or calm all the time. Asked me this morning while driving near Chicago, I probably needed some social emotional learning skills there. Social emotional learning is the set of human skills that allow us to understand ourselves, manage emotions, relate to others, and make thoughtful decisions, even when engaging with AI bots and large language models, especially when things are hard. We know that challenge is universal. Every person listening in this room and the space, or anyone listening later, knows that none of our lives have been without challenge, and challenge doesn't go away. But what differentiates us is how we handle that challenge when things get hard. SEL is how we learn to notice what's happening inside us before it spills into behavior and reactions. It's how we learn to pause before reacting, how we learn to tolerate discomfort without shutting down and shutting the world out, how we learn to stay curious instead of defensive. At its core, SEL is about thinking and feeling working together rather than competing with each other. And this matters because learning does not happen in a vacuum. Educators, can you all agree with that? It happens in bodies, it happens in relationships, it happens under stress, distraction, comparison, and pressure. Think about any athlete. Athletes' muscles grow and become bigger and stronger because we put our bodies under that stress. But that is the body's natural way of handling it. And we do have the ability to handle that stress with the right tools. SEL gives us the internal tools to learn through those conditions, not in spite of them. So, how does this connect to AI? In an AI saturated world, SEL becomes the foundation and more important than ever. Because when answers become instant, SEL slows us down and decide what matters and what questions to ask. When tools automate tasks, SEL helps us retain agency. When speed increases, SEL helps us regulate rather than react, which is part of responsible decision making. SEL is what protects discernment, empathy, ethical judgment, sense making, and the skills technology cannot automate. So ultimately, without SEL, learning becomes mechanical. With SEL, learning remains human. And that's why in this moment, social emotional learning is not optional. It's the human infrastructure that allows everything else to really work. It is stability and it matters more than ever. SEL is the driver's education for powerful tools. It's the internal governor that keeps speed from becoming harm. And it shows how to protect agency without banning innovation, because we want our students to be innovative, but we also want to protect their agency. So I have the 3 A's to make this practical. The 3 A's of navigating this is awareness, agency, and alignment. And we'll call them the 3 A's. We're going to walk through each one, not as a theory, but as a lived practice that we carry on with us after this very moment. Awareness, agency, and alignment. So I'm old school. We used to call this noticing things. We now call this awareness. So with that, seeing the invisible, noticing what AI is doing to our attention, noticing how quickly we reach for answers, noticing how often we skip the why and just jump straight to the what. Awareness sounds like this, or noticing. I didn't realize how fast that answer came, or I didn't notice what little time I sat with that question. Or, like I asked all these people in front of me, when's the last time you were required or asked to think quietly with your peers when you were being tasked being the ones responsible for major decisions for our youth? Another one is I didn't realize how tense my body felt when scrolling. Awareness is not shame, it's sight, and sight is power. So with that, I want to tell you a moment I can't shake and the love of a story. I have a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old. I was home with my 13-year-old, and as a prior English teacher and librarian, this comes into moment. We're doing homework. My daughter's friends were all over, and one of her friends showed me an essay they created which they used AI to generate it for school. We talk a lot about cheating in our home, and rather than talk about cheating, we talk about what we're not learning. So rather than framing AI as students are cheating, it's more of what are students learning or not learning. So this girl's essay, it was beautiful, as we can imagine. It was perfect structure, elegant language. It was swelligan. It's exactly what any teacher or English teacher wanted to read. And then I asked her one direct question. What do you think about this topic? She paused, she froze, not defiant, not disengaged, just blank. The moment wasn't about cheating, it was about disconnection from meaning, the signal, what we're seeing. And here's what we're seeing right now. Quicker answers, but shallower meaning, more efficiency, but more exhaustion. And I want to say it clearly and kindly, this is not failure. We're not failing. It's a signal. So what is the signal? Here's what we're seeing right now. With agency, we want to reclaim the driver's seat. We don't want to ban technology or make it negative, and we don't want to also blindly embrace it. We don't want to sell snake oil or fairy dust. We want to have agency and autonomy in our learning. So what we do is we change the question. We stop asking, what did AI say? And we start asking, what do I do with what it said? That one shift restores agency instantly. Not what did the AI say, but what do I do with what it said? It turns students and adults from consumers back into thinkers. Passive consumers into active engagement is where we want to move to for the positivity of humanity. So today, tomorrow, we can have and take action in our daily rhythms of life. Here's something that we can do. Anytime AI is used, ask 3 questions when you're aware. What did the AI give me? What did I agree with or disagree with? And what meaning will I make of it? This takes 90 seconds and it puts humans back in the driver's seat. So let's pause together for one moment, no fixing or judging. Think of the last time you used a tool to speed something up. So if you're on this call thinking live in this live audience with me or watching this as a recording, take a few seconds. When's the last time you used a tool to speed something up? Maybe drafting an email, summarizing a document, doing a legal consultation, planning a lesson, or responding to a student. Did that speed deepen understanding, or did it quietly step around it? Did that speed deepen the understanding, or did it go quietly around it? Just notice what comes up. That moment of noticing, that's leadership. And leadership is one of our top skills that we need in a machine-driven world for us to lead rather than the machines. So what do we do? Oh, I went backwards here. That was a repeat. So the last one is with the 3 A's is alignment. So values before velocity and speed. Alignment is the moment we stop asking, does this tool work? And we start asking, what is this tool teaching? Because here's the truth that we don't say loud enough and often enough. Speed is not neutral. When something speeds up, it doesn't just save time, it reshapes what we pay attention to, what we value, and what we're willing to skip. Tools teach even when we don't mean them to or are conscious of it. They teach what matters, they teach what gets rewarded, they teach whether meaning or efficiency is the goal. And alignment is the courage to pause and ask, are our tools reinforcing my values, or quietly replacing them? Just because we can move faster does not mean we are moving wiser. So alignment is choosing values before velocity, especially when speed is tempting. And when speed speeds up, that's a signal for us to pause. So let's do a value check. What human skill do we want to be strengthened because of this tool? If you can't answer it, pause. The pause is not resistance, it's wisdom. So let's look at this as an example. The love of a desired car. I often say this with a smile. AI is like giving kids a sports car or any desired car that they want. Amazing potential and completely elated, truly, but also an absolutely terrible idea without a driver's license. SEL is the seatbelt, the brakes, the calm voice saying, hey, maybe don't floor it yet. And just to be clear, we can't outsource calm to software. And we also can't outsource all of our thinking to software. So for the adults in the room, let's talk about responsibility. And I want to do this honestly with couth and care, because if we begin, or if we're being truthful as a society right now, which we all know, we hear the humdrum of the cooler talk or in teachers' lounges or in the lines at stores, children are not the most dysregulated ones in the room. They're just most often the honest ones. And what I mean to that is they're the ones reacting to environments that move too fast, expect too much, and rarely pause. Many of us are living in a constant state of urgency, checking, responding, scrolling, reacting, and we call that productivity. But what it often is the nervous system on overload. Technology didn't create that, it amplified it. And kids are not just listening to what we say, they are learning from how we move, how we react, and how we regulate. So when we say regulated adults create regulated systems, that's not a slogan, it's a mirror. And I want to be clear, this is not about blame, it's about power. Because the hopeful truth is this: when adults slow down, systems soften. When adults become more intentional, environments become safer. When adults model pause, curiosity, and reflection, kids learn that speed is not the same as importance. And that's where this work really truly becomes for humans and educators alike. Not with fixing kids, not with controlling behavior, but with adults choosing to lead from regulation instead of reaction. Confident adults create curious kids. And curiosity is another skill we need in a machine-driven world. Because when we stop being curious, we stop being critical thinkers, and we all follow blindly. And this work, this hopeful, necessary work, it starts with us and everyone listening to this. So the goal is intentional humanity. The work is not about less technology, though. It's about intentional humanity. Teaching pause in a world built for speed, teaching discernment in a world built for outcome or output, teaching sense making in a world built for answers. Because the most important technology in any room still is the human nervous system. So if we come back to the story in full circle, my daughter's friend who used AI to write for her, think for her, what she needed wasn't a better tool or it completed, done. It wasn't more support from technology. What she needed was permission to think, permission to pause long enough to hear her own ideas, time to sit in the discomfort of not knowing right away, space to reconnect with meaning instead of performance. And here's the part that stays with me the absolute most. Nothing is wrong with that student, that girl, my daughter's beautiful friend. She's amazing. She's not lazy, she's not incapable, and she's not unmotivated. She simply is living in a system that has trained her to move faster than her own thinking could keep up. That's not a child problem, that's a systems problem. We can adapt and grow system problems and get better at them. And that's the positivity of it, because we can adapt and fix systems. And this is where social emotional learning matters the most. SEL gives students the intentional permission to slow down in a world that rewards speed. It teaches them to sit with uncertainty instead of escaping it. And it reminds them that their thinking matters even when it takes time to find. SEL does not compete with technology, it completes it. Without SEL, tools get louder and humans get quieter. And with SEL, something powerful happens. Students don't just produce answers, they reconnect with themselves as thinkers. That's what our world needs, and our humanity are thinkers. And if we're being honest, it's what many of us need. So carry this with you. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to hear this. That feeling is not weakness, it's awareness, the first A. And here's what we can do. The next time something speeds you up, hear this line in your head. Machines move fast, but humanity matters more. Pause long enough to decide if the speed serves you, because the good news, the very good news is this: we are still really, really, really good at being human. Thank you so much for letting me talk on that, and I appreciate your time and energy. And I know that we have a Q&A, so Padma, I don't know if you want to add any input to that.
This was a really powerful message we all need to listen and then implement in our day-to-day life. Yeah, I have quite a few reflections that I just noted down. I wanted to share before I hand it over. I open it for Q&A. So you have, Holly, you have given us a lot of pause. You have given us a lot of pause with especially around how we stay grounded and human as technology continues to accelerate. And what I'm taking away from this is AI isn't the enemy, confusion and speed without intention is. And machines will keep moving faster, but our job is to stay human on purpose. And the simplest way is to reclaim that in a shift you offered, and asking the questions, what did AI say? But what do I do with what it said? Right. So with that, I think we have a lot of things to take away, especially with the 3 A's that you mentioned, the awareness, agency, and the alignment, which we need to incorporate in our thinking process. So I'll open it for everyone to share their reflections. And if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and then go ahead. Russ, go ahead.
Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to get your thoughts on it's only been a couple of weeks, so I'm not sure it's a habit yet, but a practice that I started over the holidays, a digital sunset. So basically I turn off all screens, usually try for an hour before I go to sleep. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that. I think this talk is great, and I think a lot of great insights here, and so I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Ross, I appreciate it. That's actionable. So we call it the 3-2-1. So the 3-2-1 is 3 hours before bed, no food. The reason why is if you ask any healthcare professional, they'll say that your digestive system needs time, and that's 3 hours before you go to sleep for proper restoration of the body. So 3 hours, no food, 2 hours, no water, because quite honestly, we don't want to wake up in the middle of the night disturbing our REM to our REM sleep to use the restroom. And then what do we think the 1 hour is? Just like you said, Ross, no screens. The blue light interferes with our melatonin production, and it interferes with our ability to turn off our brains. And so often I hear individuals say, I just look at my phone to turn off my brain. That is a grave misconception. Our phones aren't relaxing our brains. This is quiet, pause, thought. So Ross, yes, doing a sunset with your phone. And that's what we try to teach our students in education by telling them or being intentional. Teachers have to check their phones too, but to say, hey, I'm going to check my phone to see if my doctor called, and then not get looped into a hollow flow where we're just flowing from app to app to app with no intention other than it wasting part of our lives away. So that's where we want to be active users of that tech. And Ross, I've seen firsthand with you, you are absolutely an active user of technology instead of passive. So great question.
Thank you. That's great, Holly. Thanks.
I think Chris was next. Chris Ryan.
Hi there. Holly, thanks for the SEL tutorial. That was great. And I'll use your awareness agency alignment analogy or idea going forward. Assuming you're working with some teachers today to train them or to work with them to do the work in their classrooms or use AI tools properly or appropriately and apply these same concepts. The same issue exists in businesses. There's adults that that need to be trained this, and it's a cutting edge concept. How are you helping your educators who may be, let's say, mid-career or later, that are a little maybe traditionally, I don't want to stereotype, but maybe traditionally not as active in kind of applying SEL to a new technology that's moving so fast, or trying a new technology?
Yeah, the intersection of the two. I start usually with a lot of self-regulation and making the connection to devices and how devices, because all teachers come together and I hear a common message. Our students can't focus, they won't sit still, they can't learn, right? I just hear it, and they don't mean it to be derogatory or negative. They just have these students who come into class, these little humans between the ages of 4 and 18 who are just distracted and can't focus. And we call that the pacifier effect. Have you ever heard of this effect before? It's the idea that when we're babies, we pop a pacifier in, but that's self-soothing. Emotional regulation comes when we take the pacifier out, and then we have to regulate our emotions without the pacifier. We learn this from a very young age, how to begin regulating our emotions just with a pacifier and other means. But now what happens with technology and speed, pressure, societal norms, we give our kids devices. And then when we give our kids devices, that self-regulation growth in the brain is not happening, because now they're using the devices to cope like a pacifier. So now the device is becoming the human pacifier that follows them. And that's why when we engage, when we are experiencing these low-level emotions, we tend to passively engage in technology or into our phones. I asked a question to the audience a few minutes ago, and I invite you all to do this as well. Take a moment to think about the last time you felt joy or happiness, or you laughed, or you felt glee, you felt awe, right? So if you have that mind's eye image, and I'm holding space and matter for you if it's been a while, because I know that there's people who aren't experiencing those emotions on the regular. But when you do find that thought, ask yourself, where was my device in those moments? And that's where that balance comes with our students to teach them the ideas of self-regulation, how to focus, how to slow down and be self-aware of the nervous system, how to extend critical thinking as a scaffold where we're building from 5 seconds to 1 minute. I can ask all of you right now, think of a pink elephant. Keep thinking of a pink elephant. You can focus on that. But if I ask you to think about a pink elephant for a minute, your thoughts are going to be distracted. So teaching our students how to think and reclaim our thoughts again, and then taking that agency with adults and teaching them that skill to then transfer, because a lot of our adults in the room don't know that that's happening either. So then they model that in a positive way or in a non-aware way. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. It did. Thanks.
We also use like Dan Siegel, great. Brad Chapin is another person I admire. They have some great work in the field of self-regulation and self-awareness, and then teaching that to our students, because our goal for education is to get our students to learn. And right now I hear so much about it cheating, but it's like, let's reframe that to learning. What are they not learning, or what do we want them to learn, right? So yeah, thank you. Do you have a follow-up for that?
No, I don't. That was great. I really appreciate it. The only thing that I can think of is just, I mean, the idea of awareness and even practicing meditation or trying different ways to kind of enact that strength or that capability or skill. It's really important. And I just don't think as a society, we really pay attention to that, honestly. And it's more important now than ever. So thank you for all this.
Great question. So next is Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Ollie. Thanks so much. That was a great, wonderful presentation, very actionable. I have a question about this from kind of a developmental standpoint. So as parents and educators, what are the signs that AI is being used in a way that strengthens children's social and emotional skills versus signs that it may be actually undermining them?
Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do with the cognitive onboarding or cognitive offloading. So are we using these tools to make our kids exceptional? Are we using these tools to streamline and remove burden of the unnecessary? Or are we using this to replace creativity, empathy, leadership, discernment, and thought cognition for our kids? So if our kids are not questioning, if they're engaging, and when I say kids, this is more of our older kids, because our littles differentiating between a large language model, a synthetic relationship, a bot. I'm here at the school district and I'm looking right now at these little stuffed animals that have AI integrated into it. Do they view these as a friend? Or do they view it as helpers who help adults think and ask better questions? So I think with large language models, if we just accept the input and we are watching our students just accept and not have discernment and not question the output, then we're not utilizing the tools for cognitive onboarding. We're cognitively offloading that cognition. And we all do it. Mark, if I asked you, if you had Padma's phone number and I said, hey, Mark, what's Padma's phone number? You wouldn't be able to know it. But you do know the pathways of finding it, and you've offloaded that. And that's okay, and that's safe to do. But we have to have agency of what is okay to offload and what is okay not to. And creativity, AI can amplify anything. It can amplify the positive or it can amplify the negative. Our mainstream mass and media focuses on amplifying the negative, but we know, and I see all the time from first perspective, traveling around the country and the state and being in multiple school districts, I'm in one now, of how it can amplify that positivity and the genius in what our kids are doing if we have those 3 A's present. So yeah, that's a great question. Did I answer that?
Yeah, that sounds great. And it sounds like 2 additional sessions just from your answer. So.
Right.
Linan, you're up next.
Holly, that was fantastic. I am just like, how can we get your voice amplified across the entire ecosystem spectrum, et cetera? I just popped something in the chat on Aventine. It's a podcast of former New York Times writers that does a whole focus on humans and machines. So anyway, a thought. So when you look across the ecosystem and you think of, and not just in classroom, not just teachers, but all across the board, SEL, so important, very appropriate, specific to education. In business, and I would say in adulting, we'd use the same thing, but we call it emotional intelligence. So how do you, right? How do you see both artificial intelligence and emotional intelligence needing to rise together?
Yeah. So that's also like, when teaching our large language models, I just presented on this morning. We talked about it. I said, go home and type into a large language model who won the Civil War. It will give you the American Civil War. I asked the group, I said, okay, how many history teachers are in here? Has there been more than one Civil War? Of course there has been. But the AI assumed that because of my thanks, Ross. Because of my geo mapping and my location, I wanted this Civil War in the United States. So when that came in, I didn't just accept that. What I used is use the power of the pause in that ability to be in my upstairs brain, in that thinking to say and critically think, why are they just saying the American Civil War? And then asking that large language model in future to safer chats that when there's assumptions being made to ask me more clarifying questions. So I think that when we start to engage and we see humanity engaging more, the more we just accept those responses, that means the less we're using the human skill and the skill of discernment. The more we question the outputs and ask for those reliable sources, and ask it to triple check and go then to vet out that information and to check and to validate what we're seeing as real through that process of discernment, is then where that social emotional learning comes in with artificial intelligence, because we're able to respond versus just react. And that's really hard because our brains were designed to react. Because if there's a bear, I want to believe that that's a bear, because if I don't believe it's a bear, I'm getting eaten. So we always believe first, but having the awareness to know that in our central nervous system allows us to question those inputs. And then when we start asking better questions, we get better outputs. And it becomes this reciprocal beauty that allows us to be exceptional and to make real positive change. And I know that because I'm living proof of it. I've been in a large language model for my own success for the last 3 years. But then I've also used it and teach educators to hire the Lexile level. If you have an 11th grader using Gemini or Copilot, ask the large language model for a higher Lexile level or more creative language, because at the end of the day, when our kids are reading prompts and reading responses, they're reading. It's a new literacy. They're writing. My daughter, she was trying to explain something to me the other day, and I said, okay, and I used audio, and I said, talk to Mr. Joybug, who is my chat bot. Ross has met Mr. Joybug, and I've met his bot as well. And I said, explain it to Mr. Joybug. She explained it, asked to create an image. And I said, is this what you're thinking of? And she said, no. And I said, let's use better language. Let's use more creative language. What that is becoming a better communicator, a better writer, a better processor. She's being more creative. And then all of a sudden she created her mind's eye image for me. And then I understood. So we were communicating with AI as a helper, not as a friend, but as a helper who helps adults. And that's how we frame that with our littles, because we're not going to get our littles just having AI create stories for them. That would rob them of that creativity, but it can help enhance the creativity to create those slides for that autistic student who needs those flashcards from transition from the gymnasium into the cafeteria. And we can create those social stories for that child using AI. We can create problem-based learning that before AI, a teacher did not have capacity to create 25 different PBL lessons, but now we can. And that is the exceptionality of it. And all of it requires the ability to ask better questions and respond versus react. So human intelligence, it's the one thing, our feelings and emotions and consciousness is not what machines have. So to make us brilliant, we need to keep focusing on those core qualities and competencies, which SEL is grounded in.
I think someone on this is going to trademark AISL. If you think of it in the sense of ESL, right? English as a second language, maybe it is AI as a second language. Thank you. Spot on.
Thank you.
Jim, you're up next.
That was amazing. Thank you so much, Holly. Amazing. I think all these questions answered most of my questions, but I guess one of them was, what's the biggest stumbling block for teachers that you're seeing? Is there one sort of obstacle that's really affecting everyone?
Yeah, it's fear. It's confusion and fear. And I think that when we lower the threshold and understand like SEL, the central nervous system, and we normalize it, fear is just a moment where we have to have courage, right? We never get over fear. We just let courage outweigh the fear and we do it. When I went skydiving, I didn't do it with confidence. I was basically, peeing my pants up in the plane and being like, I don't know that I can do this. And I was shaking like a leaf and pretty much, had a serious moment on the way down, but my courage was was weighted more than my fear. My love for wanting to grow and experience something outweighed that fear. And that's where with educators, when we understand the process of just the brain, any new technology between the ages of 0 and 11, that new technology is automatic to that student or to that child. AI is automatic, just like Jim, you and I were the TV generation, right? It was ingrained in who we were. We didn't fear the TV. Our grandparents did. Look at the calculator. But kids who are raised between 0 and 11 with that technology embrace it just as normalcy. But then between the ages of 12 and 29, that's when any new technology is new and exciting and thriving. Look at our kids now with AI. It's a part of human development because why? We're searching for human connection, marital status, children, career, profession, financial stability, family, individualization, are the way we navigate our life. And technology is an agent for us to get there. So it would make sense that between those ages developmentally, that's where those kids are at. But what happens after the age of 29? After the age of 29, people are established. They have their jobs, they have their career, they have their families. They're kind of in what's that called when you just coast, right? On cruise control. So what happens is we fear it. We fear what we don't understand. So then what I do is we come in, and what we all do is that we teach and we educate, because once we understand what it is, we're not so scared of it. For educators, educators are most concerned with creativity, copyright. And I use that example today. I found an example of a piece of artwork that was of all the Disney princesses, and it was a beautiful piece of artwork. I replicated it, and for 3 weeks, I drew with watercolor and colored pencil for 3 weeks. Someone could come to me and say, Holly, you copyrighted that. You copied that. You cheated. I would challenge anyone to say, was I not creative? Did I not sit there for hours on end and draw and color and create a new version of something that I thought was beautiful? None of our thoughts are original. We know that as educated people. And that's what AI can do if we use it responsibly and through questions. But I think for educators is easing the hype and the fear and the media and providing clarity and stability for what they need. And then also teaching that AI is not embedding itself into education. Education is embedding itself into AI, because AI is already, Jim, as you know, in all capacities: streaming, banking, credit cards, financials, housing, shopping, algorithms, online. I mean, the list, Spotify, the list goes on, map systems. We use it all the time. So that's where that A comes in, with the awareness. Be aware that AI is here. Our society has functioned on it for decades. Our teachers take a test in Illinois. It's called the NWEA. So the NWEA is an adaptive AI test. It came out well over 10 years ago, and there was no panic. Our kids were using AI and there was no panic. So why was there no panic then, but there is now? So we clarify and we provide stability, is what we try to do for our educators, so there's not fear or hype.
So conversely, what is the unlock that you mentioned for them to get on board, right? Obviously the creativity, right? Unlocking a kid's creativity, but is the other one sort of, minimizing, prep, or, doing customized syllabi, or curriculum? Yeah. What do you say?
If the average educator uses AI or a large language model, they will reduce 7 to 12 hours of workload. It takes an educator about an hour to write a thoughtful, vetted, revised email to a parent. Why? Because that email can be on social media in a second. It can receive criticism. It can go to the superintendent. They can be offended. So what AI does, it becomes a thought partner for that teacher to remove the stress of the burden of that weight and put that on AI. But the human is still the one who vets it, who reads it, and who agrees and aligns with it. So when that then happens, that our email now comes into 10 minutes. And then when we then go through training and PD, we then start to program those large language models and create gems and say, every time we create an email to a parent, please make sure it's more positive than negative. Always provide solutions. Always provide kind things about a student, not just the negative. So when those things don't appear, that AI now amplifies and says, hey, Holly, you didn't add in positive things about this student. And now the human is adding those in. Lesson planning putting in standards, SEL, critical thinking theory, SEL theory, technology theory and standards, and creating prolific, engaging activities that have all of those capacities that the human neuron at 276 miles per hour cannot do, but the AI that's moving 500 billion times faster can. And the human, the teacher, is still the one that has to now share and perform that lesson for students for them to collaborate. That was a great question, Jim. I feel like you may have a follow-up, Jim, and I know we're almost at time here.
Yeah, I know. I want to give other people the opportunity.
We are
Really
almost on
appreciate you
clock.
doing this.
We are almost on clock, but I think we can take one more question, Holly.
Yeah,
Nusra?
absolutely. Yep.
Nusra, you are up next.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's a wonderful session. I loved it. And it's, as a science educator, now turned into a, AI trainer for educators. This gave me, a lot of, areas that I can discuss with the teachers. I always discuss the human touch. Always there should be human touch in the AI output, So this gave me like a framework I can talk about. So thank you very much for that. So rather than just saying human touch, even though I have, previously learned about this SEL, but I haven't thought I can connect that with this AI, training. So yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much. And also a little personal thing I want to share. So, I have a son who is 6-year-old, and when we were talking after his school, he was saying that we had blue popcorn. So then I said, popcorn is okay, but that blue is not good, very good. Then he asked why. Then I said, the coloring, even though the permitted colors, it's not good for your health. Then there are E numbers. So I was talking about that. And then he asked, what's the E number for the blue? Then I said, I don't know. I want to search. Then he said, ask ChatGPT. He's here. He's laughing. Then yeah, then I said, how do you know ChatGPT? Because it's around 7-8 months ago, right? I was with this AI community thing with Padma. You remember Padma? Then I thought he has taken that from me. Then I asked, how you know this ChatGPT? Then he said, no, my cousin, he was there last week. Then he said, we'll ask ChatGPT how to create, paper rockets. We'll ask them, not typing, they conversed with it, and they found out videos how to do it. So then I thought, I want to talk with him about AI. So with using these AI tools, this Gemini, there was an option, Gemini storybook. So I created like a storybook to talk about AI. Yeah, here he is. Then again, when we conversed some days back, he said, I said, we will ask AI. Then he said, sometimes it can be wrong, Mama. Then, yeah, so it's the, the thing that we give to our kid, even from, the smaller stage, because they are going to be the future leaders, but they want to know how to deal with this AI system, right? So, yeah, so that's one personal thing that I wanted to share. And thank you very much, Padma. Because, I connected Padma with this AI enthusiast community, I came to know all about this, I connected with her. So it's a wonderful opportunity for me. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, and your 6-year-old, that's amazing. And for 6-year-olds, understanding that, AI it's not a brain, it's not a friend.
He's saying it's a machine, Mama. It's a machine.
It's a data center. It's like a spreadsheet on steroids, right? That makes collects data, finds patterns, makes predictions like human learning, but that it's a pattern recognizing system. It's how it's trained, just like we train humans to know the difference between a salt and pepper shaker, right? But it's designed to generate suggestions that they're likely. That it's not that it's not truth, and that the truth lies with our discernment. So I think it's great, and the more we can keep talking to our littles about it and differentiating, the more power and positivity we have.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. I also saw a comment in the chat, and there was a comment that said being able to sit with boredom. I teach educators and students that creativity lives in boredom. And any person here who grew up without a cell phone, when you were bored, think about all the amazing things you did. And that's because that's when we were most creative, when we were bored, because we paused. So enhancing that pause and being okay with the discomfort of it.
Definitely. Great conversation today. Thank you all for joining. And Holly, thanks a ton for making room for us despite your busy schedule. We have recorded this session. We'll be posting it on our YouTube channel. Please follow Future World Alliance LinkedIn page. You will get all the updates there. We will be taking break next week because of the midwinter break, and we'll be joining back with another speaker and another conversation on February 20th. Until then, take care and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Padma. Thanks, everyone. Happy
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Okay.
Thank you.